which we have been waiting for and are pleased to receive tonight. Rules Committee will consider conference report to accompany H.R. 2, the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018. The conference report reforms and reauthorizes farm and nutrition assistance program for 5 years, all within a budget-neutral framework. This bill strengthens a farm safety net and provides farmers and ranchers much-needed certainty and stability. Price loss coverage, agricultural risk coverage, commodity, loans, dairy margin coverage, livestock disaster programs, and crop insurance are all maintained and strengthened. The conference report improves incentive-based conservative programs like Environmental Quality Incentives Program, EQIP. The bill also reduces the threat of catastrophic wildfires, reduces the threat but does not eliminate, obviously, we understand that, wildfires while renewing a key categorical exclusion and expanding its purpose to allow for expedited reduction of hazardous fuels in our forests. As an Eagle Scout, I learned and spent a good bit of time understanding healthy forests, one of my merit badges, and I'm pleased to see that we are working for a healthy forest circumstance. This legislation is a culmination of a lot of work on a bipartisan basis. Two gentlemen who have decided that they wanted to have a bill that would be agreed to, not only the House, the Senate, but also the President of the United States. We expect to sign this bill. Our farmers are the backbone of this country. Our farmers and ranchers live off the topsoil of this country and try and take care of it as best they can, but they need our help to succeed and to make sure that we continue not only the breadbasket of the world, but also the rural components that make our great nation even better. So what we're doing is building upon work that has been done in the past. I'm delighted to have two experts, not only on this, but two gentlemen who are devoted to farming and ranching, people who are dedicated to agriculture, and the people who provide the food and the commodities to our country. So before we go to you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Peterson, we're delighted that you're here also. We're going to go to the ranking member, the gentleman, distinguished gentleman from Massachusetts, for any statement he'd like to make. Distinguished gentleman's recognized.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll be brief because I know the hour is late, but I just want to thank both Mr. Conaway and Mr. Peterson for agreeing to this compromise bill, this conference report. We can all find things in the bill that we don't like, but I think when you look at it, it represents a bipartisan compromise, and there's a lot of good things in here for farmers, and as somebody who cares very much about the nutrition title, there's a lot of important things in here with regard to nutrition. And so, and I'm hesitant to say, because you may all vote against it when I say this, but I actually support the bill and signed the conference report. And so, so I look forward to seeing it on the floor, and I yield back.
Thank you very much.
And if I could,
yes,
I also want to thank the incredible staffs, both the majority and the minority staffs, who have been dealing with this issue for a long time, and they deserve a lot of credit, and I just want that to be on the record as well.
Thank you very much. As the distinguished gentleman knows, this agriculture component represents an incredibly important source of not only nutrition and the stability of many people, but also supports the men and women, the families
Absolutely.
that make up. I mean, people are going to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and do their job and do their business, and I think that certainty is more important than us arguing and fighting here, and I'm delighted to hear that the distinguished gentleman will be lending his support not only here in the committee, but I believe on the floor. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank the young chairman from Midland, Texas, not only for taking time to be here, but attitudinally the experience to go through this and to deliver what is a very difficult conference report that you've successfully done. Distinguished gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member McGovern, members of the committee, I appreciate the opportunity to come tonight to speak again about concerning the Farm Bill. Our farmers and ranchers are going through a very difficult recession right now. Net farm income is down 50% from where it stood just 5 years ago, the largest drop since the Great Depression. Farm bankruptcies are up more than 30%. We've all seen the devastation that the recent hurricanes and wildfires But less noticed, but no less destructive, is the severe drought that has gripped many parts of the country, perhaps none so much as the one I get to represent. Even less noticed is the rampant cheating going on in the global trade that hurts our farmers and ranchers every single day. This is why passage of the Farm Bill is so important. This Farm Bill has not been easy, but then no Farm Bill ever is. Ultimately, we had to make the decision between making inroads on reform as I could, plus delivering a Farm Bill to ranchers and farmers so desperately needed, or allowing farmers and ranchers to be held hostage. Faced with that choice, I chose the route of getting this Farm Bill done. We made inroads wherever we could on improved reforms. We worked to provide the strongest safety net possible for our nation's farmers and ranchers. And in the end, we produced a conference report that I'm incredibly proud of and that will serve our nation's farmers and ranchers, consumers, and taxpayers as well. In closing, I'd like to thank my ranking member, Mr. Peterson, for his help in bringing this conference report to final consideration. I greatly appreciate the support and hard work of the House leadership and members of my conference, especially my fellow conferees, for all they've done to stand by rural America and those families who feed and clothe us. For the sake of rural America and our struggling farmers and ranchers, I urge swift consideration in the House so that other chamber, dated, since the other chamber's already gone ahead of us, and the President can sign this measure. Mr. Chair, before I finish, I can't think of a finer public servant, I can't think of a more steadfast friend of the American farmer and rancher than the chairman of the Distinguished Committee on Rules. Chairman Sessions, you're a tremendous friend of all of those who feed and clothe this nation and much of the world. And many, even in agriculture, will never know the full extent to which you've carried the torch in support of American farms and ranching families who work so hard to put food on our tables and clothes on our backs. But I, Mr. Chairman, know what you've done on behalf of America's farmers and ranch families. So please let me say just simply thank you. We're forever in your debt. God bless you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I stand ready to answer your questions.
I appreciate the young chairman, not only for his comments, but I've been a Texas Farm Bureau member now for 27 years and have believed every single year in the men and women who do the hard work. And I know you're the tip of the spear, Mike. I get my magazine every month and love to see my pictures of you in there as really leading the fight for these men and women who live in rural areas and produce these things so that we continue to be what we are. And I appreciate that very much. Without exception, anything that you brought in writing will be in the record, and the same for the distinguished gentleman from Minnesota. Distinguished gentleman is now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to echo the chairman's comments about yourself. You've been a great friend for myself and for agriculture. We've appreciated the working relationship that we had with you and the committee over the years, and is very much recognized and appreciated. And I also want to thank the chairman for his hard work and going through this tortuous process that we've been through. There were times when I didn't think we'd ever get to this point, but we didn't give up, and we kept working, and we got to a place where, you know, none of us are happy completely, but we've got a good bill. So I appreciate his work. I appreciate the work of the staff, his staff, our staff, put in tremendous hours. You know, they're about worn out. So the sooner this can get on the floor, as far as I'm concerned, the better. You get this thing out of here. But the most important thing, I think the chairman mentioned and others, is that we give farmers and ranchers certainty. And that is the number one thing that we're doing with this bill. Like I said, all of us can complain about this and that, but at the end of the day, what the farmers need is what the situation is, what they can tell their bankers, and what they can rely on when they go in and get the loan to operate for next year. And so in my part of the world, you know, getting this done in December is not a problem because we haven't really been making those many decisions. But I think in the South, it's probably getting a little late for some people. And so the time is here to get this done. And I've been through a lot of these farm bills. They get tougher every time, it seems like. And I've said this before, you know, I don't know if we're ever going to get another one done, but we were able to be successful in coming to a conclusion. Senator Roberts, Senator Stabenow also came to the table and worked their staffs to make this happen. And so I'm just pleased to be here to support this, do what I can to make sure we get a good vote tomorrow. I told Mike, when I was chairman, I think my bill got 319 votes on the floor, 2 or 3 times, once to pass it and twice to override vetoes. But, and that's the most votes there was ever for a farm bill. But I think he might beat me tomorrow, we'll see. But that's good. You know, we're going to have good bipartisan support. It had a big vote in the Senate today, and it's going to be a good bill for rural America, for farmers and ranchers, for people that eat, and people that depend on these nutrition programs, and it'll be a good thing for the United States. So appreciate everybody's hard work.
Chairman Peterson, thank you very much. I have lived through what I believe, I was just counting them, 6 chairman, Chairman Smith, Chairman Combest, Chairman Goodlatte, Chairman Lucas, yourself, and Chairman Conaway, and have been involved in those up on this committee now for 20 years, and have repeatedly seen the importance of not only working together, but how much time the staff actually does spend to go out and do the tests in the field that are necessary to make sure that the contact with people is achieved. These are interesting times to us, not just in weather, not just in rain, not just in fires, and not just in the battle of feeding more people, but actually in the ability that we have to have faith and confidence in the men and women who live in our rural communities, who get up and do the right thing and really view this as a partnership, whether it's a commodity program or whether it's the kind of thing where they need more certainty because they're on their own. It's them and the Lord. Mother Nature is the first person that's present most of their lives. And we need people of this country, young people, to want to go and go back home, to have the faith and confidence that they can run not just a farm or a ranch, but they can make their life work, they can have their children be there, and that they can make a go of it. And if we fail up here to do the right thing for the men and women who do the hard work and the heavy labor, we're making a mistake. So this same faith and confidence that the gentleman, Mr. McGovern, expressed too, it may not be perfect to him, but he's going to find a way to get there. This is the kind of abiding faith and confidence they need us to have. So I want to thank both of you very much. I've said too much, but what I will say is I'm proud of you. Proud of you for staying after it, and the staff too. So, Chairman Cole?
Well, first I want to begin by congratulating both of you. I really appreciate what you managed to accomplish here. It's an incredibly challenging and difficult bill. It always has to be a bipartisan bill. The fact you both came together, worked together, brought us a good product is something I think you both should take a great deal of pride in. I'm going to disagree ever so slightly with my good friend from Massachusetts, my good friend from Minnesota. There's nothing in here that makes me mad or disappoints me. There really isn't. Now, would you have made me happier if you had put some things in? Yes. But the things you have are not disappointing. I actually don't think there's anything in this bill that is, yeah, all of us could point to something we wanted to change, but I don't think anything that's in here should be offensive to anybody at all. I think you guys have really worked hard, and your conference committee's worked hard, and you've worked hard across the rotunda, and I think it's an exceptional accomplishment in a divided era to bring a bill this important that will bring us stability for 5 years in really important programs, both to help those that need help and to make sure that those who provide the sustenance that we need have the safety nets they require to continue to produce. I mean, you guys should be incredibly proud of what you've done, and I know all of us here are proud of you. Now, I will tell you this. I've watched all the proceedings today on television. I was kind of wondering where you guys were at the White House, because I think if you'd both been there, we've had a somewhat different result than we got today. And I say that with no criticism of anybody that was there. I just think this is an example of what happens if you let the authorizers and, dare I say it, the appropriators just get their work done member to member at this level of granular knowledge. You guys both know this bill really well, and your members on your committee and your conferees in the Senate really know it. And there's something to be said sometimes to not raise things up to the highest level, but to lower them to the level of competence and expertise and let people that are good at finding solutions, which is what I think you guys do on your committee really as well as about any committee we have. Because again, everybody goes into this knowing that to get to the final deal, you're going to have a bipartisan deal. And I'm just really, really proud of you. So I want to commend you for what you've done. I look forward to enthusiastically voting for this bill and arguing for it. And I don't know if you'll beat your 319, Colin, but I was very proud to vote for your bill when you were chairman. I won't say I was proud to override a Republican president, but I did, because I thought your bill was better than the predecessor, and it was. And the fact that you were able to do that, again, that says something about the culture of your committee in the end. So you guys have a lot to be proud of. Look forward to supporting your bill on the floor, and thank you for really good work not just for us in Congress, but more importantly for the American people, and showing that Congress really, when it operates by its best instincts and traditions, can get great things done for all of us. So well done, and look forward to the bill tomorrow. Yield back.
Gentleman yields time. Mr. McGovern?
Again, I appreciate the effort that both of you made. I'm satisfied with the finished product. I'm going to vote for the bill, and I don't want to screw anything up, so I'm going to say nothing else. I will yield back.
Thank you very much. Distinguished gentleman yields back his time. Distinguished gentleman from Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know a lot of my colleagues are concerned about the nutrition title on both sides of the aisle. I hear from my friend from Massachusetts regularly, and hear from folks on our side of the aisle regularly. And I know the chairman worked incredibly hard to try to do some things that we just haven't been able to do before. And I think the worst part of a farm program or a nutrition program or any program is when it loses the confidence of the American people, when folks begin to think that the good thing they were trying to do for those in need, that they were trying to do for farmers, that somehow that program is being abused or undermined. I notice that among all the talk about what came out of the nutrition title, what is in the nutrition title, is an integrity program that says, hey, listen, we have all agreed that some folks are double dipping in different states. We want to help folks, but some folks are undermining the program, and we don't do any American a service by allowing those folks who are not using the program properly to undermine the program for everyone else. We're going to hear more, particularly on our side of the aisle, about things that we wish had been in here in terms of program integrity. I'm a big believer that taking a small step is better than taking no step at all. And as much as this has been a contentious issue for the committee, it would have been easy to end up taking no step. And I just want to thank you both for taking what was been a bipartisan, a bicameral agreement that we can do better, and that no one is served if we can't ensure confidence in these programs. So thank you for both the ag title and the nutrition title in that way. On behalf of my farmers in South Georgia, I hope you will then bring your collective passions to a disaster bill, because yes, it is late in the South, as Mr. Peterson pointed out, but sadly, it's already too late for many of our farmers who lost everything as the only Category 3 hurricane in the history of the state blew through earlier this year. So thank you for giving them this confidence, and thank you for your leadership in helping to do more as we go forward. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back his time. Distinguished gentleman, I appreciate his comments and respect them a lot, and thank you. Ms. Torres.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you both, specifically you, Ranking Member Peterson, for coming to our caucus this morning and going through some of the points on the bill. I know it hasn't been easy for neither one of you, but we do appreciate your efforts. Specifically, I want to call out the investment in rural broadband delivery. I think that that is so key for future farmers to be able to stay connected and be able to sell their products, not just to the American market, but internationally. I am a little concerned, we don't address the trade war issue and how that will continue to impact. I'm a little bit concerned. Farmers need workers. Workers have not been able to get visas to come in and out to work on farmland. Those are real concerns, and as a result, I know, speaking from the California perspective, our farm worker housing infrastructure was built to sustain temporary workforce. So there is a need moving forward for us to focus on fortifying housing for farm workers. And with that, I want to just once again thank you both for your work on this bill.
Distinguished gentleman yields back your time. Thank you very much. Distinguished gentleman from Louisville, Texas, Dr. Michael Burgess. Gentleman does not seek time. Distinguished gentleman from Alabama. The distinguished rancher and farmer from the state of Washington is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank both the chairman and the ranking member for their hard work on the important farm bill for 2018. And as one of the farmers and ranchers in our Congress, when Mr. Sessions was talking about that young farmer that was trying to make a decision whether to come back to the farm or ranch, I myself was in that position at one point, did not realize that there was a room full of 13 people that had my future in their hands, or a room full of 435 for that matter. But just want to underscore the importance of providing certainty to ag country in this bill is not only important for those individuals that are trying to make that decision whether to spend their life working the soil or working animals, but it's important for our communities that depend on those individual farmers and ranchers, those families that make our communities what they are today. And so you just can't say enough about the importance of this kind of work to provide the certainty that our ag community needs moving forward. And so there's a lot of good stuff in here. Would there be more that we'd like to have? Absolutely, but this is a huge step forward, and I just want to compliment both of you for working hard on this and bring it forward, and I hope we can pass it with an overwhelming margin tomorrow or the next day. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll yield back.
Gentleman yields back his time. Thank you very much. Distinguished gentlewoman from the great state of Wyoming. Gentlewoman does not seek time. Mr. Chairman, there have been a number, and Mr. Ranking Member, there have been a number of important issues discussed tonight. Surety, the assurance that we will pass this and give the farming and ranching communities an understanding about with certainty that they may approach this coming year is important, but I think equally is what the distinguished gentleman, Mr. Newhouse, talked about. I represented, as the distinguished gentleman from Midland knows, for 6 years I represented an agricultural district, rural district, and they have some of the brightest, not only children, but intuitive people who care so much about America and where they're from and what they do, and they're proud of who they are. And I want you to know that I know both of you in my conversations with you have not only repeatedly said that, but you chose to work together. There's something about doing that, and I want to thank both of you very, very much, not only for your kind words to the committee tonight, but for your product, the professional product that your staff and each of you made sure delivered properly. We will get our job done this evening. We will get our job done tomorrow. And we will make sure that we all stand together for the men and women of this country who produce the goods and services that we may keep our restaurants and our families fed, and America as the bountiful opportunity for the world to feed them also. So thank you very much. Yes, sir. If you'll please remember our awesome stenographers here, and she'd appreciate anything you left in writing that you brought tonight. That would be of assistance to her. Thank you very much. Appreciate both your evening time, and we're more or less getting you out on time, so thank you very much. Okay. Chairman now be in receipt of a motion from the distinguished gentleman from Oklahoma.
Mr. Chairman, I move the committee grant a rule providing for consideration of the conference report to accompany H.R. 2, the Agricultural Improvement Act of 2018. The rule waives all points of order against the conference report and against its consideration. The rule provides the conference report shall be considered as read. The rule provides that the previous question shall be considered as ordered without intervention of any motion except 1 hour of debate and one motion to recommit if applicable. Finally, Section 2 of the rule provides the provisions of Section 7 of the War Powers Resolution not apply during the remainder of the 115th Congress to a concurrent resolution introduced pursuant to Section 5 of the War Powers Resolutions with respect to Yemen.
Thank you very much. You've now heard the motion from the distinguished gentleman from Oklahoma highlighting the conference report to accompany H.R. 2, Agriculture Improvement Act 2018. Is there amendment? Excuse me. Is there any discussion and amendment?
Yes, Mr.
That would
Chairman.
take place. Distinguished gentleman from Massachusetts recognized.
Yes, so Mr. Chairman, I support the Farm Bill, and I would have no problem with the rule. But the section that you added on the War Powers Resolution and Yemen is problematic for many of us. And so I have an amendment to the rule. I move the committee strike Section 2 of the rule, which will turn off the privileged status of any War Powers Act resolution related to Yemen for the rest of this Congress. And I would just remind my colleagues that this is one of the worst humanitarian crises that we're in the world. Surely we should consider this, and we should not be shutting off the privileges of the House in terms of the War Powers Resolution. So I urge my colleagues to vote yes on this.
Thank you very much. I think the gentleman was very precise in saying we should shortly address this issue. And in fact, I would believe that shortly it probably will be. As the distinguished gentleman knows, we are nearing a time that is a time frame where there are a lot of important issues that are going through the United States Senate, including one of those, the prison reform bill, that I am delighted is going to be not only addressed by the United States Senate, but also these measures that will require the attention of us. In fact, I have put that in there, and it would relate to an issue that I believe is not going to go away. I believe tomorrow the House will be going to a classified briefing, which will provide not only the latest information, but an opportunity where members might engage the intelligence community, the security community, and the policy on this issue, which would highlight the ability for members to become up to speed on this. So I have chosen, and the leadership of the House have chosen, to actually not allow this from now through the end of the year, through this rule. And the reason why is that we believe that members will have an opportunity to get up on speed tomorrow. We believe we will be able to move more effectively through the things through the Senate that are necessary, and I think equally on a bipartisan basis need to be addressed and passed, and then would know that, as your word said, quickly or soon, this could be addressed as the new Congress will decide to do that with the need. I'm sure they're going to have classified briefings to understand what they would be expecting.
Well, we've had classified briefings on Yemen, so this is not the first one, and we should have done this a while ago, but the Rules Committee shut it off.
I did.
So I appreciate your answer, but I don't agree with it. So I'd like to have a vote on my amendment.
Anyone else seek time? Seeing none, the vote now be on the McGovern amendment. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. No. Noes have it.
As for roll call.
Gentleman asks for a roll call vote. Clerk will poll the committee.
Mr. Cole? No. Mr. Cole? No. Mr. Woodall? No. Mr. Woodall? No. Mr. Burgess? Mr. Burgess? No. Mr. Collins? Mr. Byrne? Mr. Byrne? No. Mr. Newhouse? Mr. Newhouse? No. Mr. Buck? Ms. Cheney? Ms. Cheney? No. Mr. McGovern?
Aye.
Mr. McGovern? Aye. Mr. Hastings? Mr. Polis? Mrs. Torres? Mrs. Torres? Aye. Mr. Chairman?
No.
Mr. Chairman? No.
Clerk will report.
2 yeas, 7 nays.
The amendment is not agreed to. Not agreed to. Further amendment or discussion? Seeing none, the vote now be on the distinguished gentleman from Oklahoma's conference report. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
Ayes have it, ayes have it. Accordingly, the distinguished gentleman from the state of Washington, a farmer and a rancher, distinguished gentleman, Mr. Newhouse, will be handling this for Republicans.
And I will handle it for the Democrats.
And Mr. McGovern from the Agriculture Committee and the Rules Committee will be handling this. Normally, there's a question that comes about from distinguished gentlemen from Florida, but I will tell you that at this time, we have no additional meetings that will be available this week. I want to thank each of the committee and the staff for their work on this, and our awesome stenographers for their attention to detail. This now has completed our work for the week.